Welcome to the Sports MVT Insider, a platform where we are unrelenting in covering our women in sports. And of course, we absolutely love celebrating those big and those small moments as well. Today, we are focusing on the sport of football. We are talking to a former Banyana Banyana international player. Most important thing about her is that she was also the captain of Banyana Banyana at some point in time. And currently, she is the assistant coach at UJ. She's coaching the women's football team at the University of Johannesburg. Her name is Nthabeleng Modiko. Nthabeleng, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you, Aaron. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. I would like for us to start our conversation here. Let's take you back in time and talk about your journey with regards to football. Tell us about the love. How did your love for football actually begin?
Mine, I think, is one that was, I want to say predestined because I need to use big words, but my parents both played soccer, so it was the only sport that I could understand from a very, very young age. And my whole family, both my mom and dad's side, they also did participate well enough in sports. So it started quite when I was still very young, if I may put it that way.
Absolutely beautiful. Let's take you now to the moment where you made your international debut. Let's talk about the call, when you get that famous call that every footballer wants to get, but also who was the coach at that time that you were being guided by as a young Banyana Banyana player?
Yeah, I can. It's very fresh in my mind. I still remember I was still at the University of the Free State at the time, and I remember the team as I walked onto the pitch. We were training, and coming from the change rooms, and you walk onto the pitch, and there's something that just said, "Hey, something's happening," or something has taken place in the time that you were not there. And my teammates just started screaming and cheering for me. And I thought, it's one of those pranks, you from the toilet and everyone's like, yay. So the good news was shared by our then coach, Coach Queen, 𝗀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹. I forget his name now, but we called him Coach Queen at the University of the State. And he was with Miss Nomsa Mahlangu, who they were beaming when they told me, hey, you got the nod, the coach wants to see you. They would like to see you in Johannesburg for the trial. And I firstly was shocked with the fact that I have to go to Johannesburg because I had never been, to Johannesburg before. And second off was, the shock of, oh wow, it's the senior team. They actually would like to have you over for a trial and stuff like that. But yeah, I still remember it very fresh. And the then coach was still Coach Augustine Makalakalane, who was the head coach for Banyana Banyana at the time.
Absolutely beautiful. Now, I'd like to take you back to 2010. I'm certain these are memories that you remember quite fondly. It was, of course, South Africa hosting the African Women's Championship, which is now known as the African Women's Cup of Nations. Tell us a little bit about the captaincy role that you had to play in this tournament. It's one thing playing for Banyana Banyana. It's another thing being the captain of the team.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you are there, you are part of, you're part of the cream of the crop of the whole country. I think at the time we were still in our 40 million range as a country, and you standing there and you're like, wow, I'm one of the chosen, one of the 23 that is chosen amongst the best. And it also helped because I was rubbing shoulders with the likes of 𝗀𝗻𝗃𝗃, Amanda Dlamini, Coach 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹, Janine van Wyk. It was just so amazing because they had this vast knowledge that I hadn't even had at the time. And they were very happy and eager to share, as teammates and also off the pitch. So it was amazing to be playing for Banyana Banyana at the time. And we as the host country, and we're being told, hey, everybody in your country is going to be watching, is going to be watching you, is going to be cheering you on. They're going to be singing for you. You get to be singing the national anthem for the first time, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is nerves. And I still even remember that morning when I was announced as the captain, and I said, no, I remember my exclamation was no, no. And when everybody kept on saying, yes, you are the captain. So It was amazing, an honor, a privilege, I should say. And also, you know, you are amongst the elite, the captains of different clubs, and you are having to lead them. What I enjoyed the most about that time was the fact that everybody was so professional. You know, we were very young, but also very professional in everything that we were doing. We understood what it meant to be hoisting the flag in this competition, and I think that also made it made it very it was full of pressure, you know, to be playing in front of your country, but also very much amazing because you could understand the language when they're saying yes, you know, it's the same thing, and when they're saying no, you guys are not doing the right thing, you also feel it because they are saying it in your language, and you're understanding everything. You know, this is coming from the fans and the supporters. But I would say, you know, at the time, I still say I cherish that time very much because it taught me, and it paved a new life and a new life for me, you know, being called one of the captains of Banyana Banyana.
Absolutely beautiful. I'd like for us to talk about the ups and downs. Now, specifically you being a student athlete at the time, how does one manage the ups and downs of being a student athlete? I mean, you're focusing on your books and also you're trying to build a professional career.
Yeah, it's challenging. It's challenging, Aaron, if I must be very honest. You know, I always tell the players, even to this day, um, there is no one person who can manage to juggle two careers and actually make a success of them. But I think with the now generation, you know, they have the ability of having YouTube and online classes, and you know, also being able to equip themselves in terms of their careers better. You know, you have your individual training. You try and see what is being done in Europe, in other continents, and you try and bring it closer to yourself. You can do it in your own spare time, and also you can even bring your coaches into it. At the time, not so much, you know, not so much luxury was afforded to us. You were probably, I was probably one of six students within the national team, and we always needed to huddle up together to try and bring each other closer to each other to say, hey, it's time to study, because when you're in the national team, like I said, it's so professional, it's so elite. You know, you're focusing on your career as a soccer player, and you have to rest at some point, but during that rest period, that's when the student has to come on board as well. So I always try and let the girls, you know, you have to have a better time management. Your priorities have to be set up so clear, not only to others but to yourself first. You want to be a student athlete, and you have to make a success of it. My challenge, I flunked my second year, you know, because I didn't have the qualities, I would say qualities at the time to be a good student athlete. When I got a hold of my soccer career, my studies, you know, suffered. And when I tried focusing on my studies, my soccer also was taking a knock. So nowadays, I would say the challenges are still there, but at least the athletes from today, they are managing it a lot better.
Definitely. Let's talk a little bit about you in that second year when things didn't go well. What advice would you give to Nthabeleng that second year who was excited about football, trying to juggle school? What advice would you give her just to survive that second year and not to make the same mistake again?
You know what? The first thing I would say to her is own up. You know, I remember I didn't believe it. You know, I didn't believe it because I was in a way ashamed of, oh my goodness, what will people say? What will people at my house say? You know, my family has sent me to university, they've paid so much money, and here I am flunking because I'm focusing on my sports. But I would definitely say own up, because I had a lot of excuses why I failed. I didn't really face it head on. And for me to be able to manage it now, to understand it now, is when I actually faced it. And I said, listen, you let yourself down. There are moments where I'm like, I should have studied during that time, but I was too tired, or I told myself that I'm tired, whereas I wasn't, you know, could have put in some work for one chapter or two chapters. But yeah, the biggest advice also would be, you know, after owning up on your mistakes, head up, you know, walk tall, you know, try it again, which is that's the biggest advice that I got from my family as well. You know, yes, you are flunked, we are not disappointed entirely, and go back, go and study again. And that's how I even managed to pass my CPT and get my